I find it really, really difficult, this whole situation with Gareth Southgate in England, because I like the man, I like the manager, I like what he's brought to England. Obviously, he's brought relative success, bar the fact that we haven't actually won anything as of yet, but we've seen progression at tournaments. And you do feel as though there's a real unity within this squad, which he's been essential with bringing into this England team. But it does get to a point where you just think, if you are picking someone like Harry Maguire or a Kalvin Phillips, even a Jordan Henderson we can throw in there now, bear in mind where he's playing, I don't know what message that sends out to everybody else who would love to be selected but are just being overlooked. And he talks there about we've lost experience with certain players being injured. Well, that's down to him not selecting players previously, and therefore that's why you have a lack of experience in this potential squad. Well,
you touched on it earlier, but, you could... I think a lot of ammunition would be aimed at Gareth if England had not done quite as well. But the fact that they've made semi-final, made final of competitions, it's sort of given him a little bit of leeway.
Yeah.
Look, managers do trust certain players and sometimes have, that loyalty towards them. I saw it with Jack Charlton with certain members. We didn't have the depth of England squads. Jack didn't have that luxury, and Norman McCarthy. And so I sort of understand it, the loyalty thing. And if I said to you, in this squad, who's the fourth highest goal scorer? Who would you think?
I don't know. Probably Maguire now. You said that.
Maguire.
Yeah.
More goals than any midfielder in our group. In England group. So it's telling you that he thinks, and he doesn't really mention this, that set pieces and, getting goals. He's got 57 something appearances, caps for England, Harry. He's got 7 goals. That's more than any midfielder. Only people in front of him are obviously Harry Kane, without doubt. Then you've got Marcus Rashford, and then you've got Saka. And you probably could add in that Callum Wilson, over the years will get a number of goals but not that many for England. That he'd obviously, if he plays and gets enough football, Callum Wilson would catch sort of even the likes of Harry Maguire up. But he sees him as a role. I get it, Nat, because it's really hard to make an argument when the player's not playing. Why are you selecting him if he's not playing football? Surely next summer, if he's played very little football over the course of the 23-24 season.
But I think that is the problem I have, is that I just think there will be players looking on who just think, well, I'm never going to get a chance then. The way it's going, I'm never going to get a chance, because you're always going to pick the people you think have always done a job for you. And of course, no one wants to single Harry Maguire out for criticism or Kalvin Phillips, because they're not getting picked for whatever reason at their respective clubs. That's a problem, of course, for them. But and of course, they've always delivered when they've played for England. We can't grumble really too much with how they've performed. But I just think, like he says there are players, especially centre-half, like he mentioned, that he couldn't bring up necessarily because they don't have the experience. Well, that is down to you to bring them into the team to get the experience. Yeah. And how you can discount Conor Cody based on the fact he's playing in the Championship is what he's alluding to. Again, I'm not quite sure about that. When Jordan Henderson's playing out in Saudi Arabia, which I'm not sure we can say quite yet is at the competitive level of the champion. I don't know. I don't watch it regularly enough to know. But I just think we can all raise our eyebrows at that one as well.
Well, what we can say is that probably, and I'd say more definitely, that Jordan Henderson's had a conversation before he went to Saudi Arabia with the England manager.
I'm sure.
And probably asked the question, will I still be selected? And I'm pretty sure that the response would have been, because he's been selected, yes, I will select you because I still think you're majorly important to us for next summer in the Euros. So I think that conversation would have happened and maybe made it a little bit easier for Jordan Henderson to go to Saudi Arabia, knowing that it wouldn't cost him his England place. That's how I imagine how that one panned out.
Perhaps, but I don't see why you can't dip into the Championship for Conor Cody, for example, who's playing, rather than opt for someone who's getting no minutes at all at the moment. But, you know, that's
there are some... I didn't get Raheem Sterling being left out.
No.
I thought that was just like...
Unlucky.
He started... This is the best we've seen Raheem for 18 months.
Yeah.
The way he's started this season, and you can clearly see he's a player who's playing a different role with a new manager and has excelled. But then you could go to Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa.
Jared Bowen missed out.
Yeah, Jared Bowen. I mean, he started
James
brilliantly.
Ward-Prowse. Rico Henry, who I've not even got to talk about.
I mean, we all have in our own head, don't we, an England squad. And we'd all probably have our own little arguments about who actually is preferred in that position. But I think there's 3 or 4 that should have absolutely been in this squad. And Rico Henry is the one that you mentioned, that, but there isn't really a luxury of left backs for England. You know, people of choice of how you're going to play as well. Rico Henry can play in a back 3 or as a wing back, and he can play in a back 4. I've seen him do both roles. So
yeah,
look, England have always had this incredible luxury of great players, and you know, every decade. And this is another group. I think sometimes you just have to think the manager will always go down the road of people he's used before, trusts and believes in. He works with them, and sometimes can get a bit foggy in his thinking. And I think certainly over a couple, I don't get it at all.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.